75% of the network is Bitcoin Core. Whether they upgrade to Bitcoin Core V30 next month, that's something that we'll all be watching. But if they don't, or if they move to knots, or they go do something else, or someone forks or something like that, that's something that would indicate that there's an appetite for more types of clients and so on.
This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by Gate, a leading global cryptocurrency exchange established in 2013, serving over 35 million users with spot, futures, and margin trading for 3,600 plus cryptocurrencies, holding $12 billion in reserves with a 124% reserve ratio, and ranked second worldwide in 24-hour spot trading volume.
Welcome to the Encrypted Podcast, your gateway to the future of technology and innovation, right here in the heart of Dubai's dynamic tech universe. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and together with Dubai Blockchain Center, we are embarking on a journey that unravels the minds of tech visionaries through the digital frontiers that are shaping our world. Hello and welcome everyone to Encrypted Podcast. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and we're so happy that today we're joined by one of the most respected and outspoken voices in Bitcoin, Jamie Song. Jamie is a Bitcoin educator, developer, and entrepreneur who has been deeply involved in the blockchain ecosystem and the Bitcoin ecosystem specifically since 2011. He has taught thousands of people how to program Bitcoin through his Bitcoin programming courses. Jamie authored influential books like Programming Bitcoin, The Little Bitcoin Book, and Thank God for Bitcoin. And he also worked as an engineer at Armory and Paxos, known as Bitcoin OG, and a strong advocate for sound money. Jamie has been at the center of many Bitcoin most important debates, from the block size wars back to block size wars and to today's discussions around Bitcoin Core and knots. Jamie, welcome to Encrypted. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Jamie, I believe that there are so many things that our audience would like to know about you, but among the things that I mentioned, what do you believe the first and the most important thing that everybody should know about you that maybe I haven't mentioned yet?
That I'm Bitcoin only, and I don't do anything around altcoins. I think they're all scams, and anything blockchain related that isn't Bitcoin is probably a scam. So that's the main thing I would say.
Okay, so let's focus on Bitcoin blockchain in this case, and let's focus on the ecosystem, because, I'm really curious all the time because I'm getting different questions around how the Bitcoin blockchain ecosystem works. So could you please tell us from the very beginning till today how it has been growing and what developments that have been achieved by Bitcoin Core developers that you're the most proud of, since you also worked on that so hard, and I would say the big chunk of your life is like specifically focused on Bitcoin only.
Yeah, the Bitcoin blockchain is not something mysterious. I think there's a perception out there that it's some magical device that can tell you if something is true or not, which is kind of a very badly phrased way of describing a blockchain. But basically, what the Bitcoin blockchain does is it has a record of every transaction that's ever been on Bitcoin. That's literally what the blockchain is. It's a record of all transactions that have happened. There are special transactions that create Bitcoin, that bring Bitcoin into existence. These are what are called coin-based transactions, and there's one in every block. At the beginning, there were 50 Bitcoins per block that were created per block in these Coinbase transactions. 210,000 blocks later, or 4 years later, it was changed to 25, and 4 years later it was changed to 12.5, and now we're at like 3.125. So it's been that's basically what the Bitcoin blockchain is, and if it kind of sounds simple, it is. It's basically transferring Bitcoin from one entity to another in the form of addresses and so on. And these are very simple smart contracts that are well known and understood, and
Mhm.
it's not trying to be anything more complicated than that. Unlike a lot of other chains which are trying to do Turing complete stuff and have to add all manner of complexity in order to make that work. But that's what the Bitcoin blockchain is. I would say that the main upgrades in Bitcoin have been around enabling Lightning, which is
Yeah.
very fast peer-to-peer payment. And that was mostly enabled through the main upgrade back in 2017 called SegWit.
Mhm.
And even after that, it took several years for Lightning to really come on because there was a lot of engineering work around it. I wouldn't say that I'm like particularly proud of any one thing. The main thing I think that gives Bitcoin value is its economic aspects, not
Mhm.
necessarily the technical. The technical, of course, enables the economic aspects, but the fact that it is sound money, that it has a hard 21 million cap, that it's not trying to be everything to everyone, which unfortunately a lot of other projects try to be and end up really kind of deceiving people into thinking that they're investing in interesting technology when it's really kind of scammy. I think that's the thing that makes Bitcoin interesting, special, and unique in the sense that it's actually decentralized and not centralized like all these other projects are.
We'll definitely talk about decentralization, but right now let's focus on the latest upgrade because throughout the history of Bitcoin, we could see that there has been a lot of interesting debates. Obviously, when you mentioned about 2017 as well, the let's say the fork of Bitcoin Cash, we'll definitely get back to that. But right now, I'd like to focus on the latest upgrade, which is Bitcoin Core version 30, that has created a lot of, again, contentious debates. And for our listeners who aren't very deeply technical, can you explain what is OP return and why the 80 byte limit exists and existed?
Hmm.
And why, for example, if it will be removed in Bitcoin Core version 30, right now it's so controversial?
Yeah, so there's something called consensus and something called relay policy, and these are um, little bit deep in the weeds, right? So consensus rules are what is legal in a block. So there are, like I said, the blockchain in Bitcoin is a record of every transaction that's ever happened in Bitcoin. There are rules around these transactions. Like the size and bytes of these transactions, how many can go into a block, they're not allowed to double spend, for example. They have to conform to a particular format. They have to be signed a certain way. All kinds of rules like that, which are part of the consensus. There's something that's a little bit weaker called relay policy, and this is based on the original design of Bitcoin, which is that there are nodes that are running software to check the Bitcoin blockchain, right? To make sure that it's all verifiable. This is why we say it's verify, don't trust.
Mm-hmm.
But these nodes also relay transactions that they hear about so that they can make it into blocks because the nodes that are actually doing the mining and creating new blocks for the Bitcoin blockchain need to have transactions that they're going to enter, and they get paid fees from these transactions as well. So it's in their interest in gathering them. But what gets relayed, what gets communicated from node to node, this is what we call relay policy, and this is separate from consensus because if it's not consensus valid, it definitely won't get relayed. But there are transactions that are consensus valid that nodes might not want to relay. So, for example, um, currently we're on the SegWit version 1. Taproot is the last soft
Mm-hmm.
fork upgrade that we had, and it brought in all kinds of different functionality. Um, there is no there's no SegWit version 2, right? That hasn't happened yet. So if you had a transaction that said, hey, this is SegWit version 2, nodes that don't know about it aren't going to relay them because they don't have any way to check it, and it's probably kind of dangerous. So there are lots of things like that where relay policy and consensus are not necessarily in alignment. Now, with respect to op return, the basic idea of op return is that you could put non-monetary data into that field. And it was originally limited to something like 40 bytes and then expanded to 80 and goes all the way back to 2013. And it was a concession to sort of like protocols that were running on top of Bitcoin at the time. And this from back in 2013, they had different protocols like Mastercoin, which is now called Omni and is pretty much dead at this point. There's something called Counterparty, which had like a mini revival like 4 or 5 years ago, but you know, these were protocols that were riding on top of Bitcoin, and it was sort of a concession to them. And it was limited to 80 bytes so that people wouldn't be spamming the Bitcoin blockchain, right? Filling it with non-monetary data and so on. Essentially, what this pull request does what core version 30 will do is it will unbound it from 80 bytes to basically the size of a relay transaction, which is 100,000 bytes. Now, like I said before, at a consensus level, you can have transactions that go up to 4 megabytes. But on a relay level, you want to limit it to about 100,000 bytes so that your node is not attacked via denial of service of like sending a bunch of these transactions. So that's the main idea, and that's kind of the controversy around it.
And I would say that, like, you described the decision to remove this limit as fiat mindset. So you're claiming, obviously, that it's going to, every transaction is going to be spammed by non-monetary data as well. So can you please tell us, if we think about it, about Bitcoin as permissionless, why should anyone be able to put whatever data they want to on chain if they pay the fee? What's your take on that?
Well, I think Bitcoin is money, and I think all of these other sort of quote unquote use cases of putting non-monetary data or like other asset data or transferring them, I don't think those are legitimate uses for Bitcoin. I think they clog and they give a lot of room for scams, and this has happened many times, most recently with like the ordinals and inscriptions and stuff like that. And they still kind of plague Bitcoin today. The fact is that there's a lot of data that doesn't really need to be there, that people are using as a way to troll Bitcoiners and possibly like put them under legal threat. I put out a Twitter poll yesterday. Yeah. So I put out a tweet yesterday, about I put out a poll saying like, okay, if you get a DCMA takedown notice because of this particular transaction, which was mined, I don't know, 13 years ago, what would you do? And if you actually go look at that transaction, it has embedded within it something called an illegal prime. And this is a prime number that was used by DVD players for decrypting, DVD data, right? And it was illegal to publish it, and it was illegal to have it on there. But somebody put it onto the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, this was part of the, a very unjust law in the DCMA, Digital Copyright Millennial Act, which I think is just kind of a ridiculous law in itself. But it is a way for the government to come and say that your node is illegal. So that's just like a question I asked because I wanted to see how much tolerance people had for harassment based on, non-monetary data that might be in the Bitcoin blockchain. So it does sort of open up, an avenue of legal attack, although I think most governments could kind of declare Bitcoin illegal at any time they want anyway. But that's one of the reasons why I think it's like not having non-monetary data is not necessary. It's not really a good thing for Bitcoin. It's something that a lot of other chains try to do and have done, but like Bitcoin is money, and the more you have non-monetary stuff in it, the worse it gets for the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, and by the way, we can see right now that the node operators, they're also moving to Bitcoin nodes. So could you please, so Bitcoin nodes, they enforce stricter limits. Can you please right now describe the current situation? So there are still, how many, like, especially if you were like doing this questionnaire, how many percentage, let's say, are in favor of nodes and who are in favor still of the new upgrade Bitcoin Core version 30?
Well, so anyone can, when you're running a node, there's a particular version of software that you're running, and you announce it to the rest of the network. Currently, Knots has around 21% of all active nodes that are on the and that's based on the stats of listening nodes and so on. And that's up significantly from something like 5% maybe 5 months ago. So it does show that there's support for continuing to use this feature and sort of like a protest against Core version 30. Core version 30 hasn't been released yet. It's slated for release next month, so there's no statistics on that yet. Although I'm sure we'll be seeing it soon. But that, I think, reflects the community's desire to not have this. And like just anecdotally, the people that I've met, I guess, that aren't on Twitter are maybe 60-40 not supporters, although, not everyone runs a node and so on. But yeah,
so
currently,
they are not supporters of Bitcoin nodes?
No, they about 60% seem to be upset at what Core is doing with version 30, and
Got it.
Whether they're running Knots or a previous version of Core, they seem to be indicating that they don't want to be running Core version 30. This is anecdotal. I don't have real data on this, but that's my gut feeling.
Yeah, but at the same time, you were really, timely with raising this point on Twitter or X, because this debate maybe should be happening before the upgrade is already taking place, because it's interesting actually to see different thoughts on that and how community is trying to solve that. Do you see this as a healthy sign of decentralization, or do you see in the future there will be more controversies that may create new hard forks?
Well, this isn't going to be any way in creating a hard fork. This is
Not this
a
time.
policy
Not
decision.
No, of course, not for this time. But I mean, can it spur in the future that it may cause? Let's get back to 2017 because I would like to, kind of like I remember back in 2018 when I was at Blockchain Cruise, and I remember your famous debate against Roger Ver once because it happened right after, after 2017's hard fork of Bitcoin Cash. So right now, I just wanted you like let's say compare the lessons and the experience you've gained throughout that period and compare it to today's Bitcoin Core / NOTS dispute. That's why for me it's interesting to know whether may it lead in the future to some more controversial disputes or not.
No, I really don't think so. Especially because in 2017 the Bitcoin Cash side lost so badly. Like it was embarrassingly bad. The price of Bitcoin Cash before the split on the futures markets was around $500. It is currently trading at about $500. It has stayed flat even with all of the monetary inflation in the dollar. So they really anyone that's held Bitcoin Cash has lost significant ground, whereas Bitcoin pre-split was trading in the futures market at around 2,200. It's now 112,000. So it's something like 50x versus like staying flat. So it's very clear that like any sort of hard fork like that, you're going to lose. And I think people know that, and that sort of factors into any calculations about potential hard forks, is that you can lose really, really badly, and you can lose a significant amount of your wealth, which a lot of these Bitcoin Cash people have. So I don't think that's going to happen, though you never really know. Is this the beginning of some sort of split that could end up in that direction? Possibly. But it's really hard to know like what the future holds and what sort of controversies will flare up in this manner. I do think that the core developers are realizing they probably overplayed their hand a little bit, because you're seeing a little bit of a pullback.
Yeah.
Mike Schmidt from Brink actually put in a pull request to undeprecate the feature, to at least keep the feature, even if the defaults are ridiculous, to keep the feature and at least be able to say, okay, like we're not going to be deleting it. We'll you can at least set it to a much smaller amount than 100,000 bytes. So we'll see, but this doesn't seem to be quite as big a split as 2017 or even 2021 with the BIP 8, BIP 9 controversy. So, you never know, but that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, because when you mentioned about core developers outplaying themselves, it's actually a good point because some observers are saying that they have outsized their influence because their policy defaults shape the way most of the network runs. So do you see in the future that this influence is too concentrated, or is it necessary as a process of open source development?
Well, for particular projects, yes, but I mean, you can always have multiple implementations, and you can fork the code whenever you want. That's the nature of open source, and that's happened in pretty much every open source project like ever, right? You look at something like BSD, and there's now open BSD and free BSD, and there's like multiple variations of that, and you can look at Linux, and you can look at even stuff like uBlock Origin, which is like an ad blocker for browsers and stuff like that. So that's a normal part of open source, and whenever people are dissatisfied, they go and make their own project. And this right now, Knots is sort of like taking the mantle on that, but it's possible we get more than just Knots and Bitcoin Core. In fact, there are other implementations already like BTCD and Bcoin and libbitcoin and things like that, which are full nodes, and they're written in different languages, they have different maintainers, and they have different defaults, I imagine. So Depending on which ones become popular, it very well could decentralize some of that development. But
Hmm.
the reason why we're in the situation we're in right now is because Bitcoin Core is something like 90% plus of the nodes that are running, although and Knots is really a derivative of Bitcoin Core. So if you count it that way,
Hmm.
but because Knots has gone up to something like 21%, that means something like it's still like 75% of the network is Bitcoin Core. Whether they upgrade to Bitcoin Core V30 next month, that's something that we'll all be watching. Um,
Hmm.
but if they don't, or if they move to Knots, or they go do something else, or someone forks or something like that, that's something that would indicate that there's an appetite for more types of clients and so on.
Hmm. For you, the OP return change is more like just a technical update, or is it more a philosophical question about where Bitcoin should be heading?
I think it was a tactical update, but I mean, I'm not really even sure what that means. It was meant to do something because of this company called Citria. I really just don't think the trade-offs were worth it. But the core devs decided that this was a trade-off that they wanted, and they put it in the code. The community has been rallying against it, or a significant part of the community anyway. So we're kind of in a little bit of a standoff there, and it's up to users to actually upgrade their nodes to V30 or not. And if
Hmm.
they do, then we'll have a better idea of where things stand. But yeah, we're all kind of watching for release version 30 to actually happen, and then see where the network is as that gets rolled out.
Hmm. If you let's imagine that Satoshi Nakamoto is here. So, what do
Hmm.
you think he would say right now if we compare OP return and core versus knots, Bitcoin knots? Which of these movements he would support, do you think, and why?
I I have no idea. I mean, you have to understand that Satoshi doesn't have that large a corpus of things to like reference, right? Like there's the code. I mean, Satoshi Nakamoto like literally appeared like 2008 and disappeared in 2010, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not a very, and like there's a few people that have communicated with Satoshi, and there's like some emails and stuff like that, but it's very hard to know what he would say. And I honestly, I don't think it matters that much, right?
Mm.
It's this is like for me the reason why like who Satoshi is and questions like that don't matter, because the project has grown way bigger than Satoshi, and the people that are using it and coding in it and everything else, it's like it's not like altcoin projects where whatever Vitalik says goes in Ethereum, and whatever Charles Hodgkinson says goes in, you know, um, ADA or whatever. I really don't think Satoshi's opinion matters all that much, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to speculate on what he would think on this
Hmm.
particular issue.
Encrypted is your exclusive ticket to the epicenter of technological innovations in the MENA region.
Whenever we're talking about the latest upgrade, do you think how it may influence the price and the markets in this case? Because it's also important. We're starting from the technical changes, but it's all the time. It's either drives the price, obviously through the cycles. But where do you see how can it influence the markets right now at the moment in the US and worldwide?
Yeah, it's always a tricky question because people think that it'll move in one direction, but oftentimes Bitcoin will completely surprise everyone and move in the other direction. Um,
Hmm.
So like 2013, you had Ross Ulbricht arrested for being Dread Pirate Roberts, and like in early October of 2013, and then we went
Hmm.
on, and people were saying, "Oh, it's going to be dead now because it's no longer darknet currency." And over the next 6 weeks, we had like one of the greatest bull runs in Bitcoin history. It went from $100 to 1,100. 2017, we had this big fork with Bitcoin Cash, and people were saying, "Oh, now everyone's going to be confused. What's the real Bitcoin? Is it Bitcoin A or Bitcoin B?" Blah blah blah. And over the next 5 months, we also had a huge big bull market going from like 2,200 to something like 19,000. And even in 2021 with the BIP8 BIP9 controversy, it we went on to a bull market from like 20,000 to 60,000, something like that.
Hmm.
So um, it's hard to say, and price is more a function of sort of hype cycles and fiat money printing. It does seem like we're going to get more fiat money printing because Jerome Powell just lowered the rates recently. So I mean, I'm guessing that those are going to be much bigger factors than any sort of op return drama, which is really kind of inside baseball for a lot of Bitcoiners. Most people practically aren't running a node. They keep their Bitcoin like separate, maybe on an exchange, something like that. So it doesn't really affect them, and they're not going to be creating transactions with large opt returns in them. So for me, like I really don't think it'll have much impact on price.
Okay, let's see. Jimmy, as I mentioned earlier, you have a fantastic and interesting range of books that you authored: Programming Bitcoin, the Little Bitcoin Book, Thank God for Bitcoin. When is the next time you're presenting any of them, or maybe a new book in Dubai, in the UAE?
Well, I'm not planning to be in Dubai anytime soon. I did publish a book like a year and a
Why?
half
I
ago.
Just for you to know, the Web3
Uh-huh.
ecosystem here, they would love to meet one of the famous Bitcoin OGs. We would love to have you here. I'm saying
Yeah,
this on behalf of Dubai Blockchain Center, on behalf of all of the Web3 community in the Middle East. I'm pretty sure
mhm.
that they will be happy to have you here.
Yeah, and I visited Dubai, I think, let's see, 2.5 years ago. I was actually there, and there was a conference that really wanted me to come, but like I told you before, like we set up this interview, I don't do altcoin Web3, blockchain conferences. I like Dubai. Just to be clear, I enjoy the city, and it's a little long. It's like an hour to go from top to bottom or something like that, but wonderful city, and I have a lot of friends there, and a lot of Bitcoiners are using it as a great place to avoid a lot of capital gains taxes and things like that, which I appreciate. But at least for now, I don't plan on going to any of the conferences there because it's honestly like a lot of altcoin stuff.
Well, I can tell you 100% that one of the things that you still should definitely consider, because a lot of people would like to learn definitely more about Bitcoin. Because I'll tell you frankly, not everybody, but people are willing to know about the technical capabilities, about everything that is happening. I'm following that. A lot of people in our community following that. So to learn it from someone who has been teaching people about how to program Bitcoin, it's very, very valuable. So you definitely need to plan it in the future. We'd love to have you here. Thank you so much. We had Jimmy's song. Right now, we move to our rapid fire questions. Stay tuned with Encrypted. Rapid fire questions. If you had to explain Bitcoin to a child, how would you do this in one sentence?
It is digital, decentralized money.
Okay. Which blockchain founder would you like to take on a road trip with you?
None of them. I think they're all scammers.
I'm talking about, let's imagine, Bitcoin blockchain
I don't think that's a
developers.
blockchain founder. I mean, Satoshi just created Bitcoin. I like blockchain founder to me is like indicative of
Developer.
somebody that created an altcoin. A developer? I mean,
Yes.
I think Maybe Nick Szabo, something like that.
Okay. If you found out who Satoshi Nakamoto was, what would be your first question to him, her, or them?
What gave you the idea? Well, how did you figure out that the economic aspects of it? Like, what was your reasoning?
Okay. Do you know who Satoshi Nakamoto is?
No.
Okay. Let's imagine you're teaching. Name 5 qualities that you believe a real entrepreneur should have. So teach us the first 5 qualities we should work on.
Curiosity, grit, tenacity, listening skills, and presentation skills.
Mhm. What would you never do while building a company?
Do anything altcoin related.
The biggest misconception people have about Bitcoin.
That it's a technology and not an economic money.
What's your favorite programming language?
Python.
Finish the sentence. My business philosophy is?
Provide value for people.
How often do you practice a keynote speech before going on a stage?
Maybe a week.
Which Web3 buzzword makes you cringe the most?
Oh, there's so many.
Let's focus on one.
Probably metaverse.
Okay. And if you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
Palestine 30 AD, so I could see Jesus.
Oh, nice. The next big tech trend to follow.
Probably something AI, but Bitcoin is the main one.
What is your personal formula for success?
Provide value to others, and yeah, that's it.
And Dubai for you is associated with?
Tax-free.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Today we had Jimmy Song, famous Bitcoin OG, Bitcoin educator. Thank you so much for joining us and see you next time. From the gleaming skyscrapers of Dubai to the innovation hubs of the Middle East and beyond, Encrypted brings you thought-provoking discussions, exclusive insights, and stories of innovation that will leave you inspired.
This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by Gate, a leading global cryptocurrency exchange established in 2013, serving over 35 million users with spot, futures, and margin trading for 3,600 plus cryptocurrencies, holding $12 billion in reserves with a 124% reserve ratio, and ranked second worldwide in 24-hour spot trading volume.